Good evening, everybody. This is Casper from the Tropical Weather Threat Society bringing you our nightly update. And we've had a little bit of an update that has occurred today. Our highlighted area of interest out here into the main development region of the Western Tropical Atlantic has now been labeled Invest 98L. So it currently has a 10% chance of development over the next 48 hours and a 30% chance of development over the next 7 days. We also have this other highlighted area of interest out here into the northern portions of the Atlantic that currently has a 10% chance of development over the next 48 hours and 7 days, respectively. Now, if we take a look at our tropical analysis, here we are today. We are going to do something that we kind of explained yesterday. We have two tropical waves. The second tropical wave, this one right here, is 98L. This one is not mentioned at all in the outlook, but may have a little bit of a factor in development opportunities later on down the road. Now, because we did get the invest tag to our disturbance, we've had a couple spaghetti models run on it. As you can see, though, it is the Canadian, and honestly, folks, that's not trustworthy when it comes to predicting tropical cyclone intensity or track. So we do have spaghetti plots beginning to run on it, but as of right now, it is we need more products. Now, if we take a look at Earth Null, we'll come down here to the surface. We'll highlight our little wave. And as you could see, as far as the mid-level or the surface is concerned, we've got a little bit of uplift here, a little bit of a wave trough right there. And then our second wave is preceding that, getting close to Trinidad and Tobago. If we come up in height, you will notice that it is beginning to get a little bit more towards the lower levels. We don't have much up here at the 500 millibar level like we saw a couple days ago. And again, still a little bit of shear component there, but overall, not too bad of an environment. Some very, very slow intensification is possible. Now, we're going to jump into the models, and here we have the Euro Legacy model. Now, if we take a look, this goes out 10 days, but now we'll back this back to 7, and then we'll begin to roll it forward back to 10. The one thing that we are noticing is that we're getting a signal of development potential in this region here, south of Hispaniola, here west of 70 degrees, and getting all the way over to western portions of the Caribbean and coastal Nicaragua and Honduras. So there is a large area there of development potentials as we go through next week. Now, if we compare that with the GEFS, again, here we are out 10 or 7 days. We have this clustering of development potentials here south of Hispaniola. And then if we were to run this forward, we will also note that there is the potential for some development here on the western side of the Caribbean. Again, it is a broad area of developmental opportunities here. So let's compare our legacy models with our AI models. Again, here we have the Euro AI. We've taken this out 10 days and we're getting a very similar signal to where we have development potential here somewhere south of Hispaniola, and then another pocket of development potential here in two parts of the Western Caribbean. This is in tandem with waves 1 and wave 2, which wave 2 is Invest 98L. So let's compare this all with the Google DeepMind. As you can see here, there is a little bit of a low here on Invest 98L. We'll have a lot more detailed information by the time we get to tomorrow's live where the DeepMind is concerned. Now, here we are out 4 days. So we're out 96 hours at this point. Each dot represents 2% probability. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 15, 16. So here we are in 96 hours with a 32% chance of development. Now we're going to roll this forward and we're going to get this out towards day 7. Now, if you could see here, we really didn't get a lot more development, though the development opportunity is starting to extend a little bit further to the west. And then as we get out here getting towards day 10, as you can see, there is a slight chance of development out here into parts of the Western Caribbean as well. So let's take a look into our deterministic models and see if we can figure out exactly what is going on and what the ensembles may potentially be picking up on. So what we have here on the left is the Euro, and on the right is the GFS. These two graphics are representative of our 850 millibar cyclonic vorticity. This is meant to measure areas of spin in the atmosphere approximately 5,000 feet or around 1 mile above the ocean surface. Now, as we run this forward, here comes our wave. We're about 30 hours out here late Sunday. As this wave is starting to move through the islands, so the folks down there, development is not necessarily anticipated prior to moving through the region, but at that point it is recommended to just keep a watch on this and your local meteorological services there, just to ensure that you don't end up with extra flooding or heavy rainfall or something like that associated with this. So now we've gotten out here 72 hours. We have on the Euro, we have our little area of spin right here. There's our second wave. It's actually kind of a combination of all of that right there. Our first wave and then Invest 98L. Where the GEFS and the GFS are concerned, we have wave 1 and wave 2 right there. They're both showing up. Well, the one thing that really has caught my attention, especially with the GFS, there's no guarantee that this verifies, is that we get this broad area of rotation and turning associated with this, with something along the lines of a Central American gyre to the west, and then Invest 98L on the eastern side of this. And as we rotate into the future, you will see that this kind of troughing feature pivots up and back into the open waters of the Caribbean there. So now we're going to run this forward. You'll see, there it is. There's that pivot northward, especially on the GFS. The Euro still has a very broad area of rotation there, with not necessarily a closed low system. Is more indicative of a very high amplitude wave. And the GFS, again, has a system of development. Now, we're going to get out here to day 7 at this point in time. Now, the Euro has a very large and broad area of rotation anchored with a little bit of a disturbance right here. This is a Central American gyre signal on the Euro. The GFS, this is a little different. We have what used to be, or still would be, Melissa right here. But you can also see that it is also a part of a larger area of rotation with another spot down here into the lower left hand southwestern portions of the Caribbean. William, on there on YouTube. Will Florida get a hurricane on Halloween? It is certainly too early to say, but it is highly unlikely that Florida sees any hurricane impacts for Halloween. And if we were to continue to run this forward here from day 7 out to day 10, you could see that the GFS did not want to of this area of low pressure has become one large broad area here. The Euro is a much smaller area here down here into the southwestern Caribbean. The thing about the GFS's solution, the rainfall that would occur over portions of the Greater Antilles, which would include Hispaniola, parts of Cuba, potentially parts of Puerto Rico, getting into Jamaica. How about our friends in the Turks and Caicos and the Bahamas, the southwestern or the southeastern and central Bahamas? If the GFS is the one that were to verify, this would potentially lead to some very, very damaging rainfall amounts and totals, and should be monitored by everybody across the Caribbean. We've just got to get through this threat, folks. That's really all there is to it. And there's no guarantee that this Invest 98L becomes some type of named tropical system. Oh, William, you look like you're 18 years old. Really, sir? Well, I've got a here. Let me there you go, sir. Enjoy the timeout for 24 hours. We don't play that game, sir. We do not talk like that. We are here to help inform people. If you are seeking to troll, sir, find a different channel, because that's not acceptable around here. All right, so what we are looking at now are our humidity models. We have the Euro on the left and the GFS on the right. We have our 500 millibar humidity levels on the top and our 700 millibar humidity levels on the bottom. This is representative of the areas in the atmosphere approximately 10 to 18,000 feet above sea level. Now, as we continue to run this forward, we will note there comes our wave moving into parts of the Caribbean. You can see the moisture plume associated with it. We will highlight it here at day 4. There is the moisture from the Euro. There is the GFS. There's wave 1. And wave 1 with the Euro is much further south and is not really much of a component in this. And then we will line them up here on the other models. So now we are going to run this forward from day 4 through. And as you can see, the Euro really does not want to allow anything to establish in the western portions of the Caribbean. The GFS, on the other hand, is really starting to get the entire moisture column associated with waves 1 and 2 and really start to incorporate it into a very large area of low pressure, indicative of something along the lines of a Central American gyre, except well separated from Central America. Very large and broad area of shower and thunderstorm activity. If we take a look at the Euro has this large moisture plume down here into the southwestern portions of the Caribbean, but please look up to its north and west. There is reinforcing frontal boundaries that are coming in from the United States and is keeping a very well tight cap on anything that were to develop out here into the Caribbean as far as U.S. threats are concerned. Now, jumping over to our wind shear, the last component, we know we've got the water temperatures, so we don't bother to look at the sea surface temperatures. They're more than enough to support tropical cyclone intensification and organization. So now, as we run this forward, we will get this out. Here we are, day 3. A decent amount of some shear over portions of the Caribbean. Now, as we get to day 4 here, this is where things begin to diverge between the models. We have our area here and another area here. The Euro has our amplified wave there. And because it's far enough south, it's not really getting caught up in these shear channels. Now, as we roll this forward, you will see that the GFS, even though it's fighting land interactions and it's got a large, broad circulation tied to it, it is still creating a mess down there, especially around Hispaniola, eastern Cuba, into parts of the Bahamas as well. As you can see here with the Euro, on the other hand, the Euro has a completely different solution. By the time we get out to day 10, has this large shear belt basically protecting the Gulf at all costs. And then if we look here on the GFS, we have this large area of rotation associated with that low pressure, but then look back to its west and to its north. That shear component is not going to cease to exist. The question is, does this low pressure exist in that area at that time? That, if it's down here like we have with the Euro, where our low pressure center is, you could see the shear belt becomes quite a bit more linear or oriented east to west, as to where we have associated with the GFS. There's not a east-west component there throughout uniformly throughout the Gulf. It comes up a little bit to go back around and down on the other side of that low pressure. So we've still got quite a bit of uncertainty. At the end of the day, folks, we only have a 30% chance of development right now over the next 7 days. So not a lot to get too overly excited about, but certainly enough uncertainty that exists throughout the entirety of the forecast that it would be recommended for folks just to monitor this as we go forward. Again, it might not develop into anything, but don't let anything catch you unaware. Please stay weather aware and follow your official sources. All right. Now, we will check our Madden-Julian oscillation here tonight. We are in phase 2, headed towards phase 3, out towards phase 4 and phase 5. Phase 4 and 5 would give us a little bit more of a suppressive air mass or upper level convergence, and not necessarily allow for a lot of thunderstorm activity to exist across portions of the basin. All right, jumping into the Eastern Pacific. Let's see here. Make sure that we don't have any questions. Betty, it's not... So it's similar to a Fujiwara interaction or a binary interaction. The thing that it does seem like is that this easternmost wave, let's go back to our seeds and let's come back to day 6. Let's go 5. Let's go 4. So what it looks like there, Betty, is that we have our low pressure here and another low pressure here. And we are kind of getting that binary interaction as to where this one would want to go this way. this one would want to go this way. But you have this landmass right here. And that is not allowing this western side to really consolidate down to a solid tropical cyclone circulation and be able to compete with this eastern one. The pressures on this eastern low drop much quicker and get organized a lot quicker than what we see with that western side, even if it were to get organized at all. Due to its proximity to land, plus some other factors there as well. So it does seem that this easternmost or Invest 98L would be the primary driver of this due to the pressure differences between the west and the east systems. So it does seem like that the east system will then become the dominant feature over that portion of the Atlantic Basin there in the Caribbean, and help to absorb and or kind of like absorb is kind of the proper terminology, as the low pressure here on the GFS begins to strengthen. As you could see here, we're not getting much coherence and focus of energy down here into the Western Caribbean. It's still a broad area of rotation down here, anchored to the eastern side, but then it is the land interactions with Hispaniola that helps to take the circulation that would be existent as the surface circulation on the GFS. It helps to kind of weaken that somewhat, and helps to broaden the overall width of the system out. And that overall broadening of the system eventually just absorbs anything that's out there and just becomes this large, dominant, low pressure feature. And I mean, you honestly have, in this particular run of the GFS at 240 hours, these little dots right here that you see, these are all surface vortices, or focused area of low level spin rotating around in a counterclockwise fashion within that little circle there, trying to achieve symmetry and dominance over the others. So this would be an absolute mess. Would be very difficult to get it into anything particularly like major. We'll run it into La La Land. As you could see, it never really gets that generalized focus of like supreme power, but then ends up going directly over Bermuda, of course. But it never really achieves. It would be named, there's no doubt about it. It would get the name Melissa, but it wouldn't be something like we've seen with Umberto or Gabrielle or Aaron, to where it just blows up into this ultra major hurricane, high end Cat 4, Cat 5 type system. The overall area of spin and the broad nature of the circulation would take way too much time for it to consolidate down like that. And the water temperatures are also not going to be supportive of Cat 5 statuses, or high-end Cat 4 statuses, in the face of such dry air and the shear component that would exist with the low pressure system that would be moving off of the United States. All right. Oh, you're very welcome, Miss Betty. Anytime, dear. Anytime. All right, jumping out to the Eastern Pacific, we had some changes there. They decided that Invest 90, what was it, 91E or whatever we had, the Invest that we had recently out here, that is now gone, and we have our new spot that is associated with a weak Central American gyre. As you can see, this broad area of rotation here, south of Guatemala and Honduras and El Salvador, El Salvador right here. This is the area that we're watching as it continues to slowly move off to the west and it has a very low chance of development, 10% chance of development over the next 48 hours, and a 20% chance of development over the next 7 days. Not really much to be overly concerned with. If we take a look and compare that all with the ensemble models, the Euro Legacy out 10 days, I'm not impressed. If we compare that with the GEFS going out 10 days, again, I'm not impressed. And then, last but not least, we'll compare it with the Euro AI. I still have no idea why we're talking about this. I'm not impressed at all. Though it does have a 10 to 20% chance of development. Riding out into parts of the rest of the world, Western Pacific and the Southern Indian Ocean, we have, oh, excuse me. I got attacked by my nose. Sudden sneeze. We have tropical cyclone number 4 out here into the Southern Indian Ocean, Feng Shen. Known internationally out here, Tropical Storm 30W. And as you could see, it is forecast. This thing has been a mess moving into parts of the Philippines. Oh, excuse me, folks. My nose is not. Oh, wow. So, as you can see, it is forecast to move through. Was a little bit further to the north, took a little bit more of a westerly track earlier today. Is now resumed some of that northwestward motion. Will emerge into portions of the South China Sea, potentially developing into a typhoon, and then headed down towards the southwest, and hopefully stays away from this area up here of northern Vietnam. We don't want anything to do with that. Now, as you could also see here from PAGASA, this is the Philippines official meteorological agency, there are some very serious flood advisories that are currently ongoing throughout parts of the Philippines. Flooding is taking place. We have wind signals 1 and 2 out there, and they call this particular storm not Feng Shen, but Ramil. The Philippines give their own names. So it can get confusing at times, but once you become used to the fact that everybody kind of issues their own names, it's a little easier to deal with. But as you could see, still forecast to remain a tropical storm intensity until it gets out over here over portions of the South China Sea, and then is forecast to become a severe tropical storm by PAGASA, typhoon status by the Joint Typhoon Warning Center. All right, everybody, that's about all that I have. So I am going to go ahead and sign off here for tonight. We will be back live tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central here on Facebook and YouTube. We will definitely have all of our new spaghetti plots from our disturbance being labeled Invest 98L. So folks down there in the islands, anywhere in the Caribbean, please monitor the progress of this particular wave, and actually the wave in front of it as well, just to ensure that we do not have any late season shenanigans, and we don't want anybody to be surprised by that. So please, folks, continue to stay weather aware and monitor your official sources. If you guys need anything, the link tied to our Facebook page will bring up the International Meteorology Database. And then if you click on North America, you will get a lot of these islands down there. If you guys run into any trouble with using the database, please let us know. But all right, everybody, until tomorrow night, stay safe, stay weather aware, and we'll talk to you then. Bye for now.